Hey, everybody.
Welcome, everyone.
What's
You
up?
are here at Power Playbooks today. If you're in the right place, if you are here for our Wednesday webinars where you're here
Hi,
to learn.
Gene.
What's up? What's up?
Gene, Vija, so great to see you guys.
You too.
Go ahead.
Is it my turn to go?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Let me introduce you. I'm Srita, everyone from Portland, Oregon, and every week we interview amazing realtors and business people that share with us what they're doing. So you walk away with takeaways, and we're so excited to introduce our guest here in a second. Let me introduce Vija, my co-host, Vija Williams. Take it away.
Hey, everybody. And to all of my regulars who have been joining me for like the past 3 years, welcome back. Just new name, new co-host, same old stuff. I am so happy to have Gene Arant with us today. A lot of you guys know of Gene. He's a very well-known brand in real estate. And Gene, I know that you're pretty much I'm going to call you an Austin native. I mean, you've been there since you were 10. That counts.
Yes. Okay.
And we were just talking about, you've been in real estate 29 years. That's mastery. Just mastery.
Typically my chinny chin chin. That's why.
I get that. Typically, you're kind of $120 to $160 million team, right? Somewhere in there on a given year, really massive amount of volume. And I know that, just personally, I know you do a lot of really beautiful luxury product. You're really good at farming and kind of being community based in your community around Lake Travis in Austin. And I know that, I think you were on a few years ago when the market was different. And that's kind of where I wanted to start as a launching off point, because you talked about the golden letter. And, a lot of people have moved off of the golden letter because of the market shift. And I get that. But here's the seed I'd like to plant with all of you, especially all of you that might have kind of felt like you spent a lot of money on lead generation and marketing in kind of 2020, moving into 2021, when things were really frothy. What I think Gene's story is that's really cool is he is now working the long tail of all of that money spent, and he got really good ROI. Gene, you did well with the golden letter, but what's amazing to me now is how high of a percentage of your current business is from those letters you sent 1 or 2 years ago.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I do think that that's where we should start, even though you're not really doing the golden letter anymore, you're still reaping the benefits. And then I think we can move into, how did your team transition into this new market that we're in, right? With everything that you guys do. So that's what I'm
If we can back it up all the way to what is a golden letter for those of us who just never
let's start there.
Starting out newer in the business even. Yeah, Gene, if you can define it.
Sure. It's really simple. It's a letter that you hand address. There's nothing on the outside but their name and their address. And then on the inside, it's printed and it's hand signed by me. And it simply says, checking in to see if you consider selling your home to one of our buyers. That's it. It's short, sweet. And then there's a phone number for them to call. And that phone number goes to that specific area code that we picked. And then there's a voicemail that says, hey, this is Gene. I'm sorry, I missed your call. If you're calling about the letter I sent you, please leave your name and number and your address so I can call you right back. And that's the beginning of it.
I find that you didn't ever answer those live. All of them went to voicemail.
I did it the very first zip code, which is my farm. My phone rang so much and just all day, every day for several days that I adjusted the system. And so, because I wasn't prepared necessarily when the person called, I wanted to be more prepared. So by doing it this way, our phone call, the number is recorded, it goes to our VA then it's transcribed with the recording when they leave a message to our VA. Our VA pulls the tax record, pulls the MLS on it, sends it. So then I know exactly who I'm talking to. And so I've got a lot of data on their home. So I'm very prepared to be able to talk about their specific home and their specific neighborhood and talk about what buyers specifically we have for their house.
What was the turnaround time? So if someone left a voicemail, when would they hear back from you?
Mostly the same, within an hour.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was me initially, but then our ISAs took over, and so they started taking the calls.
So what would that conversation sound like? You know, someone gets a letter, they leave a voicemail. Let's say you call them back. What would you say when you call them?
I would just say, hey, Vija, Gene Arant, I'm glad you called me about the letter. Just curious, do you have an interest in selling your home? Right. So I'm going right into motivation.
Okay.
And they're going to say, okay, sure, but what buyers do you have? And say, well, let's talk about that real quick. I haven't seen your home. I don't know anything about it. I don't know the price. Let's talk about that and see whether or not it falls in line with one of the buyers that we have. And so we have an amazing database of buyers that are always looking. And we did start this in the crunch time where we had no inventory, absolutely. And so it came out of desperation in the sense that we didn't have enough inventory for the buyers we had in the market. It was less about like it's going to be a listing opportunity. It really was we needed sellers, and we definitely generated lots of business off market, direct from seller to buyer. And we always involve two agents. We always had a listing agent, a buyer agent. I never double-sided anything. We always had two agents involved.
So it started off from a pain point, which is we need inventory. Let's go find it for our buyers.
Yep.
And then it evolved to this is a way to reach out for off-market deals that match. It's a matchmaking between inventory and your database.
Yeah, if you think about somebody who physically opens a letter and calls you, it doesn't matter what they say, there's some interest. You just have to dig deep enough to find out what the interest is. Now, is it cashing out? Is it something they see in the future, which a lot of them were? It was initially, they wanted more than the market. However, when we first started this, the market adjusted to that, and we were able to recontact them and say, we can now get you those numbers. On the other side, it was like, well, we're really not moving for a year, we're really not moving for 6 months or 2 years or 3 years. But if the number was right, let's talk about it. So it really allowed us to create a database of people that were, like you said, a drip system where a pipeline of people that down the road would become listing opportunities for us.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question so you talk to these people, it didn't work out. I'm assuming you just put them in a drip based on kind of their stated motivation and timing. Is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's, so we use Brevity, and so they go right into Brevity. Brevity has a market report that is an awesome market report that gives them the sold data. And in Texas, we're a non-disclosure state. So we're not allowed to just publish publicly sold prices. However, if somebody opts into our system, then we're able to send them sold data, right? So they actually get to see sold prices, pendings, actives, and see the market trends around them. So they're getting that market report every 2 weeks. And we customize it to their home in their area. And it's really good data. And so that's 24 drips right there a year. And we can also see when they opened it and how often they open it and how often they go back to it. So statistically, we can see that if somebody's looked at this thing the last 3 or 4 months in a row, they're really starting to think about doing something. So both our agents on our team and our inside sales team look at that, and they can go and filter by how often somebody's looked at the market reports and just make those phone calls to those.
Can we talk numbers? How many did you send? How much did it cost? I'd love to get into a little bit of that because I want to start tracking ROI and bring it to like what you're doing now with it.
After we've done it for 2.5 years, we spent about $90,000, and it's generated just under 1.2 million in GCI.
Okay, 90,000. So how much did each letter cost?
90 cents.
So 100,000 letters or whatever that is.
Yeah, so we were doing full, 50 whatever cents a letter. So we weren't doing whatever you call it, the mass
PDDM. Yeah.
Yeah, each letter had a stamp on it. Each letter it was handwritten. We had 2 single moms that work from home, and in the daytime they just wrote addresses. And so, that's all they did. We brought them the paper and the envelopes, gave them eventually, didn't at first, but eventually we got a trifold machine so they could just, trifold 50 of them at a time. And they had a stamp with my signature on it. They just stamped it and hand wrote on the front. And I looked at them every once in a while because sometimes the handwriting was too good. I'm like, this looks way too nice. You've got to get a little messier than this. This, you know, people have to realize that this is not a machine doing this. So
Gene, what was the first batch you did? Like, and how long did it take before you saw results? I mean, whether it's calls or even just a closed sale.
immediately. I mean, immediately. Yeah.
So you didn't have to worry about, should I quit? Should I keep this going? It was an immediate kind of
No,
return.
it was immediate. No, we had to adjust the script and figure out how to best tell people and get in and understand, you know, how to identify the motivation differently in the sense of coming from the letter versus a come list me or a signed call or whatever it might be, or an internet lead. So, and again, that's why we adjusted our systems where we went to the voicemail. So we're really fully prepared. We weren't calling somebody back blind, didn't know where they were, which part of Austin, whatever. I think one thing that's pretty important too is that we got with our title company and we had them run absorption rates around zip codes. And so we were looking at two things. We're looking at how often people moved and what was the price point, the average sale price. So for us, we want to be above 500,000. Our average sale price for our team is about 850, and which is about double the Austin average. And so we want to be above 500, and we wanted to see at least 6% of the population moving. And so with that, we picked certain zip codes around Austin, and we just hit those twice a year.
Okay, so that's awesome. So that was then, and that's why you got immediate results because of the market it was in, right?
Yes.
Let's move into, so when did you send your last batch of letters ish, would you say?
Let's say January is kind of the last batch we did. And
this past January.
This past January, yep.
Oh, pretty recent. Okay. So you sent, 100,000, whatever it was, through January in a 2.5-year period. I think what's interesting is now how you're prospecting to them. So can you share with everybody kind of what that looks like and how your golden letters are stacking with your incoming business? What, they rank now as one of your top 3 lead sources.
Yes. Yeah, we've sold, we've closed over 100 of them. And we have 1,083 additional people that we're in contact in a conversation of either we met with them or we had a very intense, conversation about their plans, what their needs are, and qualified that, to put them on a watch list for us to stay in contact with. And that's with full email, full phone, phone number. Again, lots of times they shot us video or pictures of their homes. So it's all very documented and they're in a trip system. And every week we have one pop up for a listing appointment every single week.
That's fantastic. That is so good. Wow.
But the aha here is the fortune is the follow-up, but you don't just send the letter and wait for the phone call. It's you nurture it and you follow up and you keep at it, right? It's the drip that you mentioned and the continued conversation and cultivating that relationship.
I've got a lot of peer groups that have tried this, that I mastermind with, and they're like, I'm like, but you have to stay consistent with it. You have to stay consistent with it, and you have to have the drip and the follow-up. And if you don't do that, it's just useless. And quite frankly, that's part of why we peeled back in January, because we had so much built up business. We were really wasting money because we didn't have the manpower to really follow up on the stuff that we already had in the pipeline. And so we pulled back on that for 2 reasons. One, that, and the second, just to rest the market a little bit, rest the zip codes. They keep getting a letter from me. They're not going to, it means less and less to them.
You become numb, right? If you're like, oh, if I can throw this out, I know he's going to send me another one. I just get too many of these.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so here's what I love about this, though. What I love about this is you could call it golden letter. You could also kind of talk about Zillow or other paid spends, but what you have now is 1,100 names, right? That you added during that spend. And I just think everyone listening right now, all of those leads you spent money on, and whatnot, like you can still prospect to them because some of them never bought or sold. Some of them did, and they might even be turning again. 2.5 years ago, you could be getting the second move, right? And so I kind of just want to go into a little bit of the systems, like how your CRM, how you're coding them, what the communication cadence looks like, what the auto plans. Maybe the auto plans are just simply the property reports. I don't know, but I'd just love to dive into, those hard fought, $90,000 worth of names. How are you now working those names?
Yeah. And I think one thing that's important too is in this, I bought one property as an investment property. I bought another property that we flipped and we made $160,000 on a remodel flip. So, and again, their agent called me, is in the seller got the letter, said, hey, we're going to, and they gave it to their agent. The agent called me and said, hey, do you really have a buyer for this property? And I said, absolutely. And so we started talking, and it was an original home in my farm. I knew it very well. 1990 home had never been updated, zero. Had a couple little things wrong with it. And they said, what would you pay for it? And I said, this is what I would pay for it because this is what I need to put into it. And it was just at the beginning of really things taking off. So by the time we closed on it, remodeled it, put it on the market had shot up, and it was like, we made way more than we thought we would. So it was good timing there. So, but anyway.
That's a great question though, Gene. I mean, you're going to get the naysayers, right? Like you said, I mean, probably one of the number one questions you get is this real? Do you really have a buyer, or are you just an agent fishing for listings?
Yep.
And it sounds like your answer there is absolutely, we have buyers, including yourself, right? Like you have investors and buyers that are looking for off-market properties.
Well, the cool thing is that, with Brivity, I'm pretty sure you both use Brivity, correct?
We do.
Mm-hmm.
We can go in and I can put an address in and I can do reverse search. So I can see, I put an address in and I can see exactly how many buyers match to that home that we currently have in our database that are looking. And so very rarely do I have zero. Most of the time I have more than 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the number one way I get listings today is I actually sit in the listing appointment. I said, let me just put in your address and let me tell you how many buyers I have of the 39,000 in my database. And like, I literally get it signed right there. Like, when can we start?
And we have 24,000. So again, it sounds crazy stupid. Like, a lot of people are like, that's, I've got 600 on my database. I get it. However, you're going to keep growing it. And that's a whole other discussion, right? Your database. But getting back to your question about the plans.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So again, it goes back to the motivation, right? We identify them, whether or not they're a hot lead, a nurture, a watch, just the different ways you're going to do it. The first thing it's going to say golden letter, because that's going to tell us immediately when we look at their contact where they came from. And then from there, they're put into a drip system of, depending on what we think is their time frame. So if it's more than 90 days, it's a different drip. If it's more than 6 months, it's a different drip. If it's more than a year, it's a different drip. And it's really just how many times they're touched. And then how many phone calls are followed up with. On the minimum, they're going to get a quarterly phone call, minimum. It's going to be weekly if they're within the next 90 days, right? If it's more than 90 days, it's every 2 weeks. If it's more than 6 months, it's monthly.
What do you say on those phone calls? If they're, let's pretend they think they're maybe fall, or I don't know, whatever they say, right? I always half the time they say, but let's just say they think by the end of the year. Sure. And you're thinking, I think I need to do weekly phone calls. What do those phone calls sound like?
Well, I mean, again, it's the market of the moment, right? So for us in Austin, we've seen about a 10 to 15% decline from this time last year. June of last year, we peaked, really May, but early June, we peaked. And so we've seen almost a 15% price drop. We anticipate we're going to see another 5 to 10% in the next 12 months. And so it's an easy conversation of just saying, hey, what's most important to you? I just had this yesterday on a gold letter. Their daughter's a senior. She really doesn't want to, they're really thinking about moving next year, not this year, obviously, right? And I said, well, just let me ask you something. What's more important to you, getting the most for your home or convenience? What's better for you? Because it's about a $500,000 house. I said, so we're probably talking about $50,000 swing. And I totally get it. If convenience is more important to you, let's wait. But if netting the most for you, we probably ought to consider sooner than later. And right now we do have Joanna on our team. She's our concierge. She's super busy with, last year we put a sign in the yard, took some nice pictures, had our stager kind of clean it up and declutter it, sold it, right? In hours with multiple offers. Today, we're having to take more time, weeks sometimes to get it,
What worked before doesn't work anymore. You can't just put the sign in the ground as your marketing plan.
Yeah. So with that conversation, if they're talking about next fall and that's really their time frame, can we get in the house and just give you advice on what is going to get you the most money by waiting, right? And so
getting in the house is so important. Same with home valuation leads too. Just get in there. I agree.
Yeah. We want to see the home and see how we can best help them. A few things, we want to make sure they're not spending the money on the wrong things. Just be a resource.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Do you do home valuation leads, Gene?
We do a little bit through Facebook Marketplace, but not a whole lot. Okay. We don't spend very much, honestly, on marketing other than the golden letters. But at this point, it's really just I spend it on have an inside sales team, that just follows up and stays in touch and stays in touch and stays in touch and stays in touch.
Okay, got it. So you're the only marketing, you're prospecting now, then you're not really paying for marketing right now.
Very little. No, we do a little bit through Brivity. Brivity does some boosting stuff for us with IDX. And I can't even tell you what that is other than I see a bill for Brivity IDX. I know that they're, boosting our listings and different things like that. But that's all I know. It's not much. We're talking about $500 a month or something.
Okay, got it. How many people are on your team right now, Gene? Sorry, Srita, you.
I have 4 agents and 2 ISAs, concierge, director of operations. My wife does some sales, and which I got to give a shout out to her. 32 years together, 3 kids.
She's amazing.
She's badass.
She loves Susan.
And then we have a client care manager and a part-time runner. So really it's about, I take that back. Then we have 3 VAs beside that.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yep. 3 Brivity VAs that handle, help the client care manager. One of them does that because I have 1 client care manager for all of our transactions, listings and buyers. And then Megan is our marketing manager. She's been with us 10 years, almost 11. She just bought her 2nd investment property. So we're really proud of her in the Philippines. She took Ben Kenny's Wealth Series when we taught in January. So she's been fired up on that. Super proud of her. And then we have one other VA that just helps the agents. Anything they need, we're there to facilitate listing agreements, CMAs, whatever.
But I think the message here is you don't have a million agents. You're very service-based and you're efficient with the admin support you have. And you have 4 agents and a huge staff, essentially, that works smart to help your agents and your clients.
Absolutely. Yep.
I was going to ask you to share the story we talked about prior to our call. It wasn't your client, it was a customer of yours. And what I loved about the story is, like, again, anyone who thinks golden letters is thinking about, like, again, opportunistic marketing opportunities for agents looking for sellers, but really you're solving problems for people, especially as the market has shifted, where things may cost people a lot more to hold on to. So I don't know if you can share that story. It was a good one.
Oh gosh, we talked about a lot. Remind me what the basics was.
I think it was it wasn't your client. You represented.
Oh yes.
The agent, and it was the buyer of another agent, and I think she might have doubted you. I don't know, something like where you guys ended up in relationship.
Gosh, I still can't remember it. Help me out.
No worries. Sorry to put you on that.
Story.
What I loved about the story, if I recall it right, is that it's not only your clients that see value. You reached out to someone who was a client of the other agent and at first doubted the letter and wasn't sure how this would work. But with HELOCs having variable rates, like,
oh yes,
things don't work anymore. Like in the heyday with inflation being lower and rates being lower, people were just making money hand over fist. And now the tides have turned, and it just made sense to make a change. And you, again, nurtured that relationship who wasn't even your client, but became a client.
Yeah, I'm drawn. I know you're like, duh. Yeah.
It was a good one. And I think my point, the message to everyone is just think about who are the people in our life that need our help. And whether it's a geographic farm or it's the orphaned clients, if you will, that they're on the other side of the transaction, everyone can get the letter and see value in what you're doing with regards to helping them with options.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's it. I mean, our mission statement is changing lives through real estate, right? And so great, giving impeccable service, creating raving fans, and clients for life. That's it. And so every conversation we have that opportunity to help somebody, and whether they're our client or somebody else's client, it all comes back around.
And go ahead. Yeah, I'll remember.
No, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think the main thing that I know about you, Gene, knowing you for so many years, is you're an executor. You people can see this webinar and go, oh, I should check these letters out. I'm going to get around to it. And then we work on perfect. I got to call the title company. I got to go get my database. I got to figure out what to say and how should I say it. And then next thing you know, we just never execute. You just do it, and then you tweak it, and you do it, you do it differently, and you do it better. And I just want to give kudos to that. The people that we've been bringing on these Power Playbooks calls, they're master, there was no playbook for you. You just sort of did it, and then you keep making it better. And now you provide a playbook for the rest of us because you were able to just take the risk and execute at a quickly and smartly, which I just want to give you kudos for.
I got to give my coach a lot of kudos because he pushes me to make decisions. I don't have a high D personality like a lot of top performers you have on here, I'm sure. And so I do overanalyze. I do have analysis paralysis. And so I do slow down. It's just over time, I've realized you've got to move forward. It's about the amount of decisions you make. It's not always about the right ones. It's just about moving forward. You'll figure out you're going to mess up. But however, by moving forward and making enough decisions, you're going to be ahead of where you would have just making sure that every little thing is right.
Yeah, I love that comment and question, Srita, and that answer, Gene, because I agree with Srita. The one commonality of anyone we've ever had on Power Playbooks or I've ever had on my webinar is they execute. They make mistakes sometimes, but they execute. And this isn't the market for the golden letter right now. But what I love is that you did it, you iterated, it worked, and now you're like, look, I have this asset and I have all this database, and I'm gonna continue to, squeeze blood from the rock. So that's what I want to move into. So many teams, Gene, right now, so many teams. I know many watching and many who will watch on replay are struggling with a team who is not used to lead generating and prospecting. They're used to receiving leads, converting them easily, and selling a lot of homes, right? That's what the market looked like a while. And you've always had a really good prospecting team, and you're back to that, right? You've had to be back to that. What does it look like on your team? Do you guys lead generate together? What are the standards and the expectations? I'd love you to walk through what you and your agents are doing. And I think everybody wants to know how you're getting everybody motivated and keeping them accountable to keep doing that.
Sure. Yes. So starting in January, I got back in production. I had been out of production for over 5 years.
Welcome back.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of it was, I'm the only one on the team realistically that ever gone through a recession. And even though we aren't officially in a recession, we are, Austin is absolutely in a recession, and when prices are going backwards and there's fewer buyers and there's 30 or 40% fewer sales, we're definitely in a different market. And so what we implemented was we took, which place has a playbook for us that we use every week, and it's called the the power-ups. And so we have 8:30 to 9 every day. The place already has that power-up for us to work through as a team. And then we go right into lead gen. So the team is either on Zoom or in our lead gen room together, headsets, whatever, music. And from 9 to 11:15, we're making phone calls, we're doing follow-up. And not a terrible amount of honest, just new lead generation. It's a lot of follow-up with people. And so, but I'm in there too. And so the good thing is the bell's ringing when somebody sets an appointment. We break it after an hour and just go, is there any objections that have popped up that we need to discuss? And then 11:15, we do the same thing. We have another discussion about what came up, what did you get, what do you need help with? And as a team, we come up with solutions. We role play those solutions.
So Gene, how long have your agents been with you?
6 years, 4 years, and the other two are less than a year.
So the two that were less than a year.
One of them was an ISA with me before that for a year. Yeah.
So okay, let's go to the one that wasn't an ISA that's new. When you recruited and hired them, did you say, hey, you're going to have to get on the phones, you're going to have to lead generate? Because I feel like maybe we're not all doing a stellar enough job, like painting the picture of what this is going to look like to our hires. And then they come on and then they're surprised that they have to cold and warm call.
Yeah. So we have, we've got I wouldn't call it, I guess it's a contract, but it's an independent contract, right? With our agents, and they see exactly what the expectations are, right? They show up with 200 people to put in the database because they need somebody to call, right? They have to earn our leads. So in order to be able to earn our leads, they need to make $50 a day, make 10 contacts a day. So 50 contacts a week. It's nothing crazy. And, with that, once they build that up and get into having 2 transactions a month, then they start receiving our direct appointment leads, that the inside sales team is setting up. So, but they have to get into the mojo of and the momentum of daily lead generation. And if they don't, they realize they're not going to qualify for those other leads and they're not going to get our time.
What's the background, what's some backgrounds of some of those agents you have? What did they do before?
One was a bartender. And then another one was a yoga instructor. Another one worked for not Goodwill. What's the other big one? Salvation Army. Okay. And so she ran a team, nonprofit side. So she actually ran a Salvation Army location in North Carolina. And that's 3. I can't think of the 4th one right now. So yeah.
So basically there's no commonality at all.
Oh, and that's I'm sorry, the other one was on-site sales for Builder for 5 years.
Okay, well that's probably one.
But still people focused, right? Service-based, people,
service-based, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I knew that there wouldn't be a commonality, I asked you because I want everybody to hear you cannot predict who's going to succeed in real estate. That's why you have to always be recruiting, because you just don't know. Like someone who ran a Salvation Army is a rock star agent, right? How would you know that?
Yes. Right. She's our top producer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing.
She connects with people. She cares. And that's our culture, right?
So Gene, what advice would you have to a new agent watching this, hasn't ever sent any letters out and wants to try this? What would you tell them to do? And also, when would you tell them to do it? Would you tell them to send out the same letter that you did now? Would you tell them to wait? How would you have them craft the message?
So again, we're going to be sending more letters out. We do realize that the market continues the way it is. It's going to be a different conversation. Right? Instead of, oh, how much can you get me? How much crazy number? It's going to be more like, what will they pay? I need to sell my house. Right? There's going to be a little bit different. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a desperation / I'm concerned about my financial future selling my home. So it's going to be a little bit different in my market. Now, I can tell you that my other mastermind group the other day, somebody's like, how much months of inventory do you have? Holy crap, I was like in the worst market. Everybody else was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, 1.5 months. I'm like, wow, okay. Yeah, that's not reality for us. Even in Texas, Dallas is like at a month. I mean, they're kicking
Well, you
butt.
guys enjoyed the good times, right? The peaks and the valleys are a little more extreme in Austin.
Yes. So anyway, so with that, the letters are going to work. It doesn't matter what. You're just going to adjust the script to whoever's calling it because their needs are going to be different. So I would say more it's about your skill set and identifying motivation. That's the most, we talk about it. I mean, I cannot tell you in our lead gen room, somebody gets off the phone and I'm listening and I'm like, so why are they selling? Why are they buying? And if they can't tell me motivation, it's a big ass failure. I mean, it's like, how can you help somebody if you truly don't know why they're wanting to move? I keep telling people, moving sucks. It sucks. It's shitty. Who wants to do this? It's not great. It's horrible. So if they're reaching out and wanting to do it or have an interest in it, there's a reason, right? And so obviously on the buyer side, we want to create wealth. We want to show people how they can wealth build on that side. On the seller side, it's about life. It's about life. What's best for them? Is it a one story because they're getting older? Is it a divorce? Is it they need a bigger house because the family's growing? It's upsize, downsize, downtown condo, move to the hill country. We're working from home now remotely. We need 2 offices. It's digging in and figuring out how can you help them in their life. And so how are you going to do that? Vija, Srita, how do you help people? How do you identify their motivation? How did you guys get better at doing that?
You ask questions.
Yeah.
And you listen and you keep asking questions.
Yeah.
Because whatever their motivation is.
You have to measure the mo. That's what I call it. Always measuring the mo. Always. Asking questions in sales is everything.
Yep.
And earning that trust and that right for them to spend time answering those questions is, a little bit taught, a little bit natural, if we're being honest. I think, for some people, that's going to come easier than others. I've had some really aggressive agents I've sold who just can't connect with people. And, I've had people that aren't that aggressive that connect so well, they do well. So just can, that's the secret. That's the secret sauce.
Yep. And then once you get them and you have the information, what the heck do you do with it?
Yeah.
Right. And then when you have enough of those people, how are you juggling them in a way that they feel like you care?
Yeah.
So you have to put it all into a system. And then eventually you have somebody help you with that system.
Yeah.
And so, but it's first starts with you and your skill set and your drive to actually have the conversation. Wake up, have a list, talk to people in a skillful way that you can make a difference for them. You do that, you're going to get referrals, you're going to get repeat business. You don't even know what the heck to do because you're going to be so dang busy that you got to hire an assistant or 2 or a buyer's agent. The momentum's created, but you have to start with having a really good conversation with somebody and giving a crap.
You know what I say to everybody when I'm training them, all new agents, I just said it today to a group of agents, every real estate conversation needs to lead to an appointment or an agreement. That's it. So every phone call, every run-in to someone or whatever, it should lead immediately into an appointment or as soon as possible, right? And if you have that mindset and you think, am I 40 hours a week, I'm working 50 hours a week. Can I not get 2 or 3 appointments? Like, what am I doing if I have a 40 or 50 hour week and I can't even get a couple appointments? You're not doing the work. You're not really working, right? Every real estate conversation needs to lead to an appointment or agreement.
My coach likes to say, Gene, if you hire somebody new to the business, make sure they're clear that they're going to be working half days. They're going to be working 7 to 7, 8 to 8. The first 6 months.
No.
It's half days the first 6 months. This is not a 9 to 5 job.
I love that.
You got to work on your skill set. You have to be out with people. You have to be making phone calls. You got to put in 60, 80, 100 hours a week to get your skill set up if you want to reap the benefits your first year.
Gene, sent out the letters, did you have any limiting beliefs? Did you have any reason to think, I'm not going to do this, or this isn't going to work, or this
I
doesn't
mean,
fit with who I am?
I had concerns about people not believing that we had buyers. I had concerns that agents would get them and call me and go, "Hey, don't be messing with my buyer. Don't be, my client's house is listed. You sent them a letter, right?
Mhm.
Those kinds of things." But again, anytime I've got any kind of resistance, I just made sure I went over the top to give information, to benefit. That's it. So
I think that's the key. If you really truly believe you're the one who can help and you're there to help, and it's about them and it's not about you, that
yeah,
really solves that problem.
yeah, it always works. We talk about that a lot on the team. There's a lot of crappy agents out there. A lot of people that are not going to give the service and the attention to detail and the lifelong dedication to this craft of helping somebody for multiple generations. And so if you can get your mindset behind that, it doesn't matter who you're talking to, you're there to help. So
Well, any last pieces of advice to people, as in the market of now, right now, any other thoughts that come to mind before we wrap as to what is working now, both script wise, any as tactical, as specific as you can get.
I think the number one thing for us is, we've always been listing focused, seller focused. You're going to have the most profitable business by doing that. We do all get sucked into the buyer side of the business when we first get started because we're doing open houses and the reality is buyers raise their hand, right? They raise their hand and say, I just qualify to buy a house, put it on Facebook. They don't raise their hand when they're like, hey, I want to move out of my neighborhood into a better neighborhood, because their neighbors could be looking at that post, right? And so they get referrals or they look up reviews, right? And so in my long career, it's been interesting to see the transition from people are looking at personal referrals less, they're looking at the reviews more. And so we have put a focus on Google reviews. That's been a big thing for us the last 3 years, is really working on that. So we're right close to 500 reviews now.
Oh, that's great.
And, we have a goal to get to 1,000. And the phone just rings from Google because they're just trusting all these reviews. And so, again, that's just the market of the moment. The market of the moment right now is making sure that you understand, that everybody you talk to and do a transaction with that love or like you, they go and give you a review. It's so important. And you can have your own podcast just on best ways to get Google reviews, right? Contests, giveaways, whatever.
Are you using GLS? So is that through Google Local Services?
We do. Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Got it.
And it costs about $30 in Austin, $30 every time the phone rings from Google on that GLS system. Yeah.
But those are real phone calls because you can dispute it. If it's not a real lead, they'll refund you.
We get plenty. Yeah. Plenty that are, we're looking for a lease, or, we own a power washing company, wanted to see if we could, needed our services. Yeah. So
Gene, now you're back in production. How does it feel?
I absolutely hated it in January. I got okay in February. March, I started, getting the rust off and understanding that I was making a difference for myself and the team. And so now it's easy.
And you're winning too.
Yes. Yes. We started a contest June 1st, 45 listings in 90 days with some other top teams. So right now we're at 7 listings in 7 days.
That's huge.
Great.
Great.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Is there anything we didn't ask you that we should have?
I think it goes back to for people to be successful in our industry, there's a lot of different ways to do it. The golden letter's one. We farm, that's another way, right? Our database is super important to us and how we touch people and bring quality content back to them. But it all builds over time, right? We have a moving truck we offer to clients. We have a power washer we offer to clients. I have a concierge, right? Joanne on our team calls you and says, It's April 1st. Checking in. Is there anything you want to do to your house? We have an amazing line of vendors, right? And so that didn't happen over time. That built up, built up, built up, built up. So, it's just implementing one thing, getting good at it, and then adding to it. And, that's really, it's simple, not easy.
Yeah.
I love it. Service-based, and yep, you just keep getting better and better. Well, I opened a can of worms. I asked in the chat who wanted a copy of your letter, and I've got a bunch of people saying yes. So I can't thank you.
We're going to do better than that.
Generosity, for your time and for your info. And then Gene offered to share his system with us. And so to get that, we're going to have you email us powerplaybooks@place.com. I'm going to drop it in the chat right now.
If you're watching on YouTube, just email us and say you want Gene Arant's golden letter, and we'll give you the letter and his system, his follow-up system. Yep. And, again, whether you send that out now or not, personally, I'm with Gene. I think this is a phenomenal market to offer easy exit alternatives. And I think that, iBuyer markets work in both markets. It can work in an up or down cycle. Just be careful, hold your money accountable. Be sure that you have a good, return on investment tracking, so that for every dollar spent, Gene knew exactly how much he spent and exactly how much he yielded from that. So that's good business practice. All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Arant. We appreciate you as always. I wish, your lovely wife were here to join you. I'm assuming she's busy doing competitions.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
She's holding down the office.
Holding down the fort. And we will see everybody else here back next Wednesday at noon. And we're here every Wednesday at noon Pacific and 3 p.m. Eastern. So thank you guys for joining us and participating. And remember, Power Playbooks at place.com.
Yeah, we'd love to see you every Wednesday at noon Pacific time. Put it on your calendar and make it part of your routine. Right. And we'll keep doing our best to get you amazing speakers like Gene.
Yeah.
Be there. Be there, get better, go help somebody.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.